comfortable and beautiful are from Freedom Tree, so thank you so much. So Freedom Tree is a modern home store that pioneers linen, fabric, and silverware with a design sensibility that embraces a lot of beautiful color, pattern, and prints, as you can see here. And Latika is going to take us through the story of how to tell a story with design, which is something that all food brands or aspiring food brand owners should think about. So over to Latika.
Hi, people. Hi, hello. Yeah. First of all, you must be wondering why is a home or space brand doing what are we doing here? The thing is, we find that the same people who love good food, good living, are literally the people who keep a good home. So it's very common. Sometimes I can even go as far as to say that people who love garlic in their food are the people who will buy from Freedom Tree. So I'm just, I'll just do this, and if you could turn forward. I'm open to taking a crazy question in between. The way I'm going to show it to you today is I'm going to rush through the first 10 slides because that's about design, but you will find parallels there. When I talk about materials, please think it's about your ingredients. It's the same thing. We all create in the same way. And then I'm going to take you through maybe 5 things that I've learned, and I hope they have meaning for all of you in terms of storytelling. When we create stories, we also create collections, remember? So our stories become, just wait. So our stories around what we create can be more complex than the story about the brand. So by the time we have 600 products, your brand identity, that people need to recognize you, whether you're at Food Nerd or at the store or at a festival or at a table somewhere selling something, somehow they need to recognize Freedom Tree. And they need to come to Freedom. And I'll tell you about failures that happen also. So if I just go back one slide, I just want to actually start with a crazy failure. We started out, whenever we did, saying good design every day. And there was a time, and Sonal, who's our brand custodian here, it's even before your time, Sonal, we were really delivering somehow bad furniture at a point of time in Goa. Maybe it was the moisture, maybe people bought the stuff and then kept their houses locked, so when they came back 3 months later, there was fungus on it. The reality is you've kept your house locked, we can't blame you for it, but we have to take accountability for our stuff because it's there. It's not food that's consumed, it's still there after 3 months. So we said, if we can't deliver good quality, let's just say we can be the happiest home store. Everyone will be greeted with a bright, cheery hello. Someone in the morning said, use the copy that your customers are, let them write the copy for you. Every time people walked in, we wanted to see their reaction. And they said, it's such a happy place. So going on now from there, thank you. We try and tell people who we are, what we do. Basically, we also say, if we are not uncomfortable creating what we've created, then we have no business doing it. Because if we don't take the risk, who will? It will not be a mainstream brand that will take a risk by giving you really colorful product. The other thing we take great pride in, everything is made in India. All our products are made and created here. Yes, Steve? These values, integrity. I heard so many of you all talk about integrity. It could be the ingredients you're using, it's the story you're telling, it's the honesty which leads to consistency, because people will see that same thing come across. We often also get people who come up and say, "Aapka website pe picture dikh raha hai, real picture bhejo." And then suddenly we are pulling stuff out of the warehouse, showing it real, or telling the store, send a picture. There is a disbelief in the doctored image, in a too perfect image. But our digital team demands more perfect image. We ourselves demand perfection, but I think people want that real homes. Don't sell me anything fake. Joy, you understand, it's the most important thing we value. And Maverick, like I said, if everyone is not uncomfortable with one of the things we are doing, we think it's very too mainstream. So maybe 60% of our stuff will be mainstream. We have to make a living, we have to sell, and people don't make the change easily. So the story that we want to tell is basically we were a trend and color design studio. We flirted with home 40 years ago. Very young brand, like many of you, I was about 25 or 27 when I started a home store brand called Takite Maluma. When I restarted it as Freedom Tree in 2010, the interesting thing was that we still got some people walking through the doors and saying, "Weren't you Takite Maluma?" Now that can be a good thing, that can be a bad thing. It's great because the spirit has remained the same. It could be bad because are we relevant today for the new India in 2010? So the trend work that we did helped us to travel across the world and create future products for brands right from Hyundai to paint companies in the Middle East. It helped me, a lot of people, yesterday I think Anisha asked me, how do you manage the business side of it? Presenting a future that an industry, mainstream, like Anand was talking about, does not hope to see. Presenting abstract ideas and design, very meticulously backed with numbers, is a very hard thing to do to an Asian Paints or a Portico or a Hyundai in India. So I learned my lessons the very hard way during consulting to say that back your data, back your intuition, back your creativity with what will work for the client. Yeah. So last year thank you for moving quickly on this. This year we had the growing pains of scaling up too fast. We are self-funded. We opened 3 stores this summer in different cities, not only one city, and we also moved locations in literally our first home store. So literally we put up 4 places within that summer, leading on to monsoons, and you know what the West Coast is like for the rains in India. Yeah, so you can find us there, you can find us online, and we create the stories that we have to tell now is what I'll come to next. Yeah, please. Design process, again very quickly I'm going to run through this. Just like your creative process, there's a concept. Because we deal with tangible things, just as you deal with food, you might decide how the plating or colors need to be. The category you're going to design for, are you doing curtains, are you doing furniture, are you doing ceramics and dining ware? Materials, can we bank on one material? Are we going to do crochet? Because everybody wants to do everything in the organization. We have too much freedom, that's the problem. Everybody's on a different path. Somebody who's day 2 into the organization can tell you what they want to do and what the strategy should be. Visuality, very, very closely we want to control it. We design everything in the studio, and this is something I love. We don't call our vendors, we call them creative partners. It's amazing how a simple artisan can change something you have given to them to design and actually make it better or make it worse, as the case may be. But they are your co-creators. If they don't get it right, you don't have a product. If your chef doesn't get it right, if your guy who's cutting the vegetables cuts something just too thick, you're gone. Yeah. And this is where we think we have equity, our textiles. We really are proud of the prints and patterns, which some of you can see around here, the furniture that we make, and the dining. It's all hand-painted, all handmade. Collections. Just as you might want to think, how do you design an idea or a menu plan? Please think of this as this. In spring, I think, is the focus there? Or can we? In spring, you may think, so we'll do a collection for spring. It then becomes a smaller idea, a capsule collection that we may do just in the hottest seasons. You've got to keep the conversation going. Like somebody said, you have to show up, you have to do something. And there is a need to do things, so we may do curtains and shears at some point of time. And then you have the big, long festive season where everybody's creating something for when people redo their homes. We wish we were a better gifting brand. We aren't, because we make big things. And then on the back of Diwali, and we are not a Diwali brand, we are not a wedding brand, but on the back of it, people really want to buy for the end of the year, for Christmas, etc. What is important for us is the visuality of the color plan, because it's like that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. We have 7,000 products in the store. They need to sit in, they need to go to transition. When somebody comes back 3 weeks later, because that's our sequence of customer coming in, it needs to look coherent. And an ability to decide. Sometimes if you have too much, and I'm sure you'll notice it in your menus, people can't decide, they go for the lowest common denominator. So they buy the safe thing again. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm also battling a bad throat. About, we can't tell everything, so I'm just sharing this with you. We talk about it. Our furniture, about 60% of it is upcycled, recycled. Our ceramics are 90% first firing, 95% actually. So in a very quiet way, we talk about that. We didn't start out being a sustainable brand. We didn't take that tactic as the first story to tell. But these are some of the things that are done behind the scenes. Okay. So these are the things we've learned. Now we'll come to the meat of it, and I will run through it as fast to keep my 10-minute deadline. Equity of design and color is what we believe. Just like, what is the story you have to tell? Your story you're telling in all these layers. We have to make sure we tell these 5 things with everything we do. So now I'll illustrate each of these. Yeah, we can go ahead. So equity of design and color. The one question that binds everybody together, remember we are dealing with stores, we are dealing with somebody who's putting out information, we are dealing with the website digital team who wants something else totally, and we are dealing with a PN Ram who is the man who finally decides when the store is put together at night what it will look like in the morning. So we have to put out information. The main information we put out, we decided, has to be bold, has to be colorful and graphic. And I'm sorry I didn't want to put off the lights in the room because I wanted to see your faces, so this is fading out a bit. The graphic way of putting out information in a public sphere is what we do in terms of our brand language. If it is dull and boring, we are not considered to be Freedom Tree. So again, we take Maverick to its highest level when we put out our first bit of brand information. And it always has to be beautiful. We will not do grunge. We will not do the latest fad. We cannot look like a t-shirt brand. We cannot look like a music brand, right? Because very often, young designers could get you confused, so please watch out for that. You are who you are. Don't let design overtake the actual storytelling you're wanting to say. Equity of color. This is the one thing that binds everybody at Freedom Tree. The way we evaluate if somebody has designed something new, the way something looks like when you photographed it, the way it's put together as a collection. We say, is it bold, is it fresh? If it's not bold enough, please amp it up. We live in Asia, forget India. All your people are traveling all over the world. Asia is huge, the amplitude of color in Asia is huge. The amplitude of taste and flavor in Asia is huge, which is why food here is so interesting. So you have to sequester your brand positioning, your storytelling very, very carefully. Yeah, please go ahead. Practice joy. And create a happy home store. I honestly tell you, if somebody climbs up the 2 stairs to our studio, I'm so happy when any one of us just gives the postman or the delivery guy a glass of water, because it's just good hospitality and you just being sensitive to the person. So yeah, we can go ahead. So practice joy. We find that people want to hang at our stores. They'll come in, they'll sit. Like even today, people were taking the lunches into the lounge, which is meant for the speakers or writers or whatever. People just want to hang there. It's a nice space, it's friendly, it's colorful. And they often call their friends and say, okay, we'll all meet at Freedom Tree and then we'll go for lunch. So very often you might think that your competition is another brand that's making gin or another brand that's making ice cream or cakes. Your competition is a movie that they might choose to go and not eat the cakes. Your competition is a travel journey that people want to go. Competition is not within your category. Please look outside your category. Look at the whole human being and what interests your main consumer. They have children, they have pets, they have dogs, they have aging parents they may be looking after, or they are really young people who are only keen on a date. Just understand that person better and create the atmospheres for that person within your location. Yeah. So whether it's within our home stores or whatever we choose to do, that's a Goya thing. And yes, this is just to embarrass my team in the middle. We've put up their pictures from the lounge from last night. Wherever we may be, even if it's doing something for Pride Week where we turned our fabrics into garments for a shelter for people who were going through a gender transition in Mumbai, it's about making sure that that story of photographing it happily, bringing joy to them, because they love making themselves up. They wanted to dress up. And the whole thing was that you allowed them to become princesses for that day and gave them clothes, and they directed themselves of how they wanted to be shot. Yeah, so we can go next. I just seem to be tripping on my words because I said know your customer. But it's really important to know your customer's customer, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. You may not only be selling direct to an individual, but you may have a larger relationship where you say, okay, I'm going to be selling out of this food chain, or my food will lie, at Theobroma or whatever. How will you understand your customer's customer? So yeah, we can move ahead. So whether if Kantan decides that I'm going to do this really crazy Asian take on something, you have to understand who's the kind of person who's coming into Kantan. You even have to refuse Chef Manu and say, I think this is not crazy enough. We can be crazier for you. So you have to do things which work for your customer, for your customer's customer. Little Italy in Hyderabad's getting family audiences. So we converted their very, basic chain of eating pasta, which everybody does, into a retro family home idea. And you get my drift. Hello Guppy, go crazy. We've done ceramics for them, which have been very colorful. And, that whole Asian take that they like to do with ceramics. Yeah, we can move on. The idea of hospitality, boutique hotels, whether it's somebody who says, very mundane, municipal looking bungalow area, an estate that needed to be turned into a premium safari resort, made the exterior blend into a beautiful tea coffee estate, and the insides were beautiful colors, because when you come back after a whole day of safari, feeling quite tired, looking like shit, you want to come into just a nurturing room to rest, recuperate, and go out the next day. But just to say that, somebody will use parts of us for interiors, somebody will say, like Isprava just wants the more elegant furniture, the ceramics from us for their dining. So there are parts of you that may appear at various places. How do you make sure that storytelling of what you create applies in the same way to people who may use parts of you? So it's like saying you have a portfolio in cakes, but certain people may use a chili chocolate cake, others want the plain Jane vanilla. So how do you keep that in your portfolio, but not dilute your identity? You cannot, if you want to say I'm a maverick brand that tells a beautiful, bold, fresh color story every time, you have to make sure that they keep coming back to you for that and not confuse them. I mean, I'm sure you heard that word from everyone today. Yeah, could we move ahead? So as you can see, we're going lower down, which means we're almost on the last couple of points. The freedom of creation. When we create these 500, we drop about 300 new products in a collection. And they range from fabrics to ceramics to decor pieces to large rugs. They all sit together. how do we make them sit together? We know one thing about our customer. The story we tell them is you are a busy person, a busy professional. You are the CEO of your own business. How do you walk in here and find that we have done the homework for you and have got something ready for you? I would love it if I could see, like we often do, we get recipes off the website. We get recipes and ingredients of a website for free. That's something somebody is giving to us, right? It helps me to plan my food when I'm a busy person throughout the week working. In the same way, in reciprocity, we make sure that we create a collection right from the dinner table to the sofas, which all sits together for you to pick and choose. It's like the buffet presented to you. And you can pick and choose, and you can know that you can't go wrong. It's like so much effort that you guys put into how the flavor profile will vary from the starter to the next to the main course. How you will have the amuse bouche, is that how you say it? You'll have that to clean your mouth. We have those gaps and that meter, that cadence, that rhythm for you to pick and choose. Now, whether we've done this for our own brand or whether we do this for others, the point is that we give you freedom to effortlessly put things together because we understand our homemaker customer or our architect professional is a busy person, and we present you with a ready-made look. But you still have the freedom to cross looks. We're not saying ki bhai yahi kari do. It's a mix and match. The other thing, we also profile our people mentally. And we are able to put, and I'm sure, just see if you can find the parallel for yourselves in the food industry. So we have somebody who's a consummate entertainer. Whether it's a man or a woman, this person's joy, and I'm sure you have friends like this, I'm sure 90% of you are like this. Your joy comes from feeding someone. The fact that you've made the journey and cooked the food yourself is your joy. Just like Anand said, it's the journey. These are our satisfaction seekers. These are our entertainers. We know they love things for the house. Then you have the wanderer. This guy just wants to own a backpack and nothing else. So we know that these are the profiles of people. We try and see, are we creating for them, or maybe the wanderer is not that important for us. But the wanderer goes and stays with other people. Surely they want to give their host or hostess a gift or do something for them. Then there's the aesthete down here. This is the kind of person who wants perfection, wants a neat home. Think of the aesthete like a person who wants fantastic plating, who wants a very progressive meal, who's interested in new foods. You know, for your industry, I would place that as a parallel. They see the fusion of something, or they see, like, you know, the kind of going back into the history and telling a long story. So for this person, that particular journey is important. And then we come to the nester. The nester is a person, apart from the food, I'm sure they'll make great food and entertain well, but they want to make sure that your stay at their own home or space is comfortable. To them, the textures matter, the warmth matters, the comfortable sofas matter, having the right guest towels in the house matters. So sometimes you can go so granular in trying to understand who your customer is for a particular product you might create. Because you might want to create that product. Like Anand said, sometimes we want to create things just because we want to. It'll give us many sleepless nights. Not 21 days, not 1 year. Be ready for 1,000 sleepless nights at least before you start thinking of your own brand. That's a given. That's a given. Go ahead. And this is actually also stories we tell. You have to match your product offering to the time. If people are interested in health foods, of course there's a big thing around that. If people are interested in telling journeys about how food came about, the history of food, if people are talking about gender disparity around the way we eat food, if people are talking about the politics of food, each of those things that are happening in the world matter to your industry. So what begins to matter to us is the way people are living. The younger generation may not even be affording their own houses. Maybe they're living with their parents. Maybe they are saying that home is not important to us, but travel is, or eating out is. Yeah, sorry. So let's say this one of the collection ideas. What happens with us? I'm sorry, the text is completely unreadable, but this was the festive collection that we dropped. It comes from an analysis that, okay, we have too many narrative prints, we have too many florals, we need to do a geometric. We also see that it's a time of great clutter. People have gone back to work full time. And we've seen that collection ideas based on India have been the most successful for us. So we do abstract ideas the rest of the year, but come festive season, we found, and we love hosting our ideas in the crucible of the South. There's just too much of Mughal India happening in home design, and we said the Chola kingdom at its height extended from here to beyond till the Philippines. So we had a very successful collection a few years ago, and this collection we based on the abstract idea of Mansara. Mansara is based on the architectural concept of measure. Sanskrit books write about a measure for everything. How big should your home be? What is the length or breadth of a temple? How far should something be? What should be the measurement of... There's a book of measures which is called Mansara, and that's what we created this collection. Even to the way this idea of measure, cosmic measure, and I'm sorry, I'm just paining you all with terms. The fact of how you could think about the sun and the moon and what astrology has to do with daily life. The clearest thing I can tell you is the column. And I'll show you an example of how cosmic ideas are instilled in people who are even uneducated. When you do a column, you draw all these dots. And then with every breath you take, you have to chant something, and your hand and motor control has to do the column till the song ends. Your design should be ready. So the idea that measure, breath, and motion control are all things where you bring largest abstract ideas to the individual, an uneducated homemaker who's doing the column in front of their house every day. Yeah, so this is now the collection that we launched, if you can see. And we took a lot of references from Indian architectural plans, and we created our collection based on that. And I will end with this next slide. So there's furniture, there is textiles, there are lamps that all follow two ideas. One is the measured geometry, and the other is fluid geometry, which is more modern. So you can see those chairs, which are more modern, but they're all based on a geometric sizing. These are storytelling, which you do around a specific idea about something that you make, a new dish that you're serving up. And I'm sure you tell the stories. The only problem is, in our case, we have to do it across 200, 300 products. In your case, it may be around a meal or a menu or a seasonal idea. So it is smaller, and this looks confusing, but we have to make sure it runs through everything. And this is our hand-painted dinnerware collection that actually closed this collection story of Mansara for the season. Thank you for listening. So good.
Since we're short on time, we'll probably take one question so that we can have like a teeny break before the next session. Any questions?
Fully went bumper. Huh? No questions.
She has a question.
Yes, please.
I remember you having said when you were talking about the ceramics that 95% of the raw material that you use for ceramic production is recycled.
No, not for ceramic. It's first only single firing. The most expensive ingredient in ceramic is the electricity. It's not the It's mitti otherwise. It just gets crushed back into ceramic again. But the electricity uses.
So when you say first press,
First single firing. Only
what do you
one
mean?
firing at 1200 degrees. When you do decals and when everybody wants their logos etc. on it, it is a plastic decal. So you've already fired the product, and on the finished product you again place the decal and fire it at 400 degrees. Single firing is at 1200 degrees. So you put the stuff in, it could burn, it could be fantastic, and that's a huge risk to take. So the electricity use is the thing that makes it most
sustainable.
most
way of-
sustainable. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Latika, for condensing